This is Teaching Herolings Bingo by the Dark Elf on Archive of Our Own, read by Lunar Loki. Summary. Teaching teenagers leads to some pretty strange situations. Teaching teenagers with superpowers leads to their teachers clinging to whatever scraps of sanity they can salvage. This is how Teaching Herolings Bingo was formed. Or short snippets of dorm life with feral teenagers making their poor teachers wonder why they decided to work with children in the first place. Now, onto the fanfic. B. Unintentional property damage. When faced with superpowered children in the middle of some of the worst years puberty has to offer, it's only a matter of time before one of them breaks something. Most days, as a teacher, the best one could hope for was that the thing was not themselves or each other. With this year's 1A, Aizawa did not receive the best-case scenario very often. That being said, Snipe was still slightly terrified when a half-asleep Shoji ripped the front door to the 1A dorm off its hinges. Slightly. "You okay there, bud?" he asked, glad that his voice didn't waver. The duply armed boy blinked at the door in his hand, then up at Snipe, then back again. Several repetitions of this occurred before he finally answered with a quiet, "Yes?" From behind the boy, he heard a familiar sigh, and then Jiro spoke. "Guys, reset the count. The door is broken again." Several groans came from inside the dorm. Then came Kirishima's voice. "Man, we almost made it a whole week this time." Snipe decided that he didn't want to know anymore as he nodded to Shoji and pulled out his phone to text the teacher group chat about the broken door. He could almost hear Aizawa's exhausted sigh from here. He took a moment to thank whatever God was looking out for him that he wasn't the homeroom teacher of 1A. He would have gone insane in the first week. I. Students fighting in weird places. Mom! Hisashi wondered, just for a second, if they could get away with saying that their hearing aids had died, so that they wouldn't be responsible for whatever it was that was going wrong. Considering it was Izuku running up to them, however, they didn't think they could get away with it for that long. Damn them for teaching the kid JSL. Quick reader's note, JSL stands for Japanese Sign Language. Zuku? What's going on, listener? Hitoshi and Kachan are fighting again. They should have never become a teacher. What made them think that they could be responsible for human children? Where are they? They sighed, pinching the bridge of their nose as they stood. Izuku pressed their lips together and looked anywhere but at Hisashi. Behind yellow-tinted lenses, green eyes narrowed. Izuku? Where are they? Their kid huffed and scuffed a foot on the ground. They're on the 1B dorm roof, okay? Hisashi blinked. Izuku still didn't look up at them. They decided it was more important to stop the impending bloodbath rather than question why they had chosen there of all places when neither of them were even in that class. They were going to have to take a page out of Sho's book and just start grounding them, weren't they? So much for being the fun mom. N. Free space. A cult is formed. Why is cult the free space? Shouldn't fights be the free space? I've broken up like 6 this week alone. And it's Tuesday. Vlad frowned at the paper on his desk. He had only crossed off the free space in the aftermath of the disastrous bet with Aizawa. In fact, after that, not quite a full week with 1A, he had crossed off a good majority of his card, finally getting close to catching up with Midnight and Ectoplasm. Aizawa's card was mostly full, with only a few glaring blanks, leaving him terribly close to the year's first bingo in 4 different ways. With how this year had gone so far, none of them were willing to complain about Aizawa winning another year in a row. This man had earned it as far as they were concerned. It's a truth universally acknowledged that if you leave a group of teenagers in an enclosed space long enough, they will start a cult. About 15 minutes to be precise, Mike said from their spot perched on the corner of Aizawa's desk, looking around them with a frown on their face. I don't know if I would call that universal. 1B definitely doesn't have a cult. The fact that you don't know about it makes me absolutely certain that not only do they have one, but it's like 10 times more fucked up than whatever Shosho's kids have going on. Midnight chirped as she sashayed through the line of desks. She reached out and knocked the reading glasses perched on Mike's head over their eyes and blew them a quick kiss. Mike, as always, blew one back before going back to their grading. The slightest creak of the vent, left purposely unoiled after the 6th time Mike shattered the windows after being surprised by Nezu and Aizawa popping out of them, was the only warning they received before Aizawa dropped from the opening to land perfectly in his chair. My kids at least have hero supervision, and arguably, more importantly, Fuyumi's supervision. He paused and frowned at his partner. Don't you have your own desk? I thought you said mine was too bridge troll chic for you. Mike didn't look up from the essay they were currently marking. Minetta's based on the sheer amount of red covering the page. There was a beetle, and you got mad at me last time I screamed in the teacher's lounge. Bugs are just as afraid of you as people are, so your desk is safe. No one dared argue with that logic, even if it wasn't true. Taking away Mike's safe space with a bug in the room was just asking for all of them to be sent to Chio, with blood coming from their ears. Besides, none of them had ever seen any bugs go within 6 feet of Aizawa's desk, so there was nothing to say that they weren't rightfully terrified of the underground hero. 1B does not have a cult. Aizawa lifted one eyebrow. Then what are they doing dancing around a fire behind the cafeteria? Vlad blinked. There was no way they were actually doing that. But he couldn't in good conscience not check on them, particularly when Aizawa was smirking at him like that. Bastard. The dead-eyed stare when Vlad came back to the teacher's lounge, hours later covered in what one could only hope was red paint and feathers, said far more than his frantic scribbling over the free space like a man possessed. Aizawa made sure to snap a picture. He was needing a new background for his laptop anyway. G. Felonies/attempted murder. Hypothetical. Hopefully. 1A had a bad habit of being in the center of the worst thing that could go wrong at any given point in time. Even the innocent ones were not spared from the phenomenon, which was how Officer Sansa found himself staring at Koji, Sato, and Ojiro, covered in ash and glitter, at 2 p.m. on a fucking Wednesday. Honestly, why was it always his shift these kids got caught? The fact that he had personally threatened the entire department that these kids were his, notwithstanding, of course. Now, Masa had too much on his plate to deal with Aizawa's kids every time they were brought in, and it wasn't like they were ever going to do anything incredibly illegal. Minor vigilantism and arson were typically as bad as it got, and even then, there was no real proof. They were good kids. They would be great heroes in the future. And who was Sansa to stop them when they got a little bit of mostly harmless revenge on people who deserved it? It wasn't like they were hurting people, just minorly inconveniencing them. He didn't bother to ask them what they were doing. He knew from past experiences with them and the rest of their class that there would be nothing giving away their direct involvement in the small fire and large amounts of glitter around All Might's newest billboard. Based on how they glared at the defaced former number one's trademark grin, it was fortunate that whoever had decided to prank the billboard had chosen that rather than the man himself. He was pretty sure that anything these three had planned would fall under the category of a war crime. Look, we all know that I'm not going to find anything, and none of you are going to tell me. That's fine. What you three have to decide is if you want me to call Aizawa, Yamada, or your older sister. Seeing all three of them pale at the threat of their pseudo-parents and Fuyumi, Todoroki, made all the paperwork he would have to do after this worth it. At least none of them stole his lunch like the little Todoroki. Oh, class-wide surprise adoption. Holy shit, Midnight breathed, eyes shining with glee and pride. I never thought I'd see the day. Snipe whispered, more than a little terrified.
Bingo,
Aizawa announced, looking decidedly like the cat who got the canary, or the teacher who has presented the kidnapped child, as the case may be. Ectoplasm cursed and looked up at the sky like it held all the answers to life. It looked back, unimpressed by his plea. Hound Dog groaned and ran his hands through his hair.
You know we only added that as a joke, right? That was the one space that was never supposed to be filled.
Izuku shifted from foot to foot, bouncing the girl on their hip as the two of them looked between the gathered heroes.
So, are you going to help me with the whole entire branch of the Yakuza putting a hit out on me thing, or am I just handing off my new sister to Dad in a gas station parking lot before peeling out like a bat out of hell like this is a messy custody agreement after a divorce?
Aizawa snorted and rolled his eyes.
Of course we're going to help you. I just wanted to gloat first.
You act like you don't win every year, Mike grumbled beside him, but the winning smile they shot the little girl proved that they weren't too upset about it.
That's because Nezu gives him all the chaotic ones on purpose,
Cementos offered helpfully.
Are we ignoring the entire branch of the Yakuza coming after the Sunshine Child, or...
Vlad asked, looking decidedly green. Aizawa shot him an unimpressed look.
I said I was going to help, didn't I? Take the kid to the dorms. All of you are to stay inside, including Hitoshi, the big three, and whatever assorted Todorokis are present. Only Kigo is allowed out, unless people are dying or dead. Do you understand me?
Izuku huffed and rolled their eyes skyward. We have our...
If you finish that sentence, I will ground you until she graduates. Go to the dorm, tell the other Hellions to stay put, and if I see even one of you involved in this, I will make you all run the hell course on my own personal training level.
Izuku blanched and was already sprinting for the dorms before Aizawa finished speaking. Smart kid. A smirk tugged on Aizawa's lips as he looked up into the air vent and the wickedly grinning rat that looked back down at him.
Security bot check?
It's like you read my mind, Shota-kun. I will ready the drones. Okay, and that brings us to the end of Teaching Herolings Bingo by the Dark Elf. That also wraps up what is currently out of this series, which was Shota Aizawa and his feral children. I hope you guys liked it. I do have a poll on my community tab for which longer fanfic I should read next. So if you guys want to add any suggestions or vote, feel free to go vote there. Thank you guys for listening, and I'll see you guys again next time.